Welcome altruists,
truth seekers,
conspiracy theorists,
and nut jobs alike.
Today we're going to tell you the 10 reasons why the government is failing that they don't want you knowing about.
Thank you guys for staying tuned, and please comment your opinions down below respectfully. We also want to ask you guys to excuse the background noise because we do have a zoo in the background.
And a botanical garden that the zoo is very enthralled with, so
yes.
Things are moving around constantly. Animals, plants, chairs,
There's constant movement in the house.
excuse the noise. Reason number one the government is failing is arguably the worst reason the government is failing, and it's for dividing its citizens in a desperate time of need for love and change. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Tensions are running high because of the situation with Afghanistan. We're at an all-time high for homelessness. The cost of living sucks, and people absolutely need love and comfort in times like this. Instead, people are out here worried about the color of someone's skin, or what religion someone is practicing, or who someone's sleeping with, and these things just shouldn't matter. The government is feeding into and fueling this division between American citizens by who's vaccinated and who's not now. And the government knows the only way to take control of a nation is to divide it, and they know they're utilizing this against us right now.
Reason number two the government is failing is because they are using propaganda and censorship against its own citizens. Freedom of speech, right? Wrong. In 2013, a bill got reversed called, so hold on, let me make sure I get the name of this bill correct. It's the HR 431 bill, and it was reversed. 4310? 4310. Oh, okay. Okay, the HR 4310. It was, it essentially allowed the U.S. to use propaganda and censorship against the citizens again, as if they hadn't already been doing that for years before. I mean, let's not forget Uncle Sam saying you can it needs you to join the army, or the we can do it girl, not to be confused with Rosie the Riveter. Sorry, I always struggle with that word. Riveter, who was another prominent propaganda figure.
The third reason the government is failing is political self-interest and the interest and influence of whatever pressuring group they represent. Let's be honest, half of the things both sides say they agree on, the other half they don't agree on. They're too busy arguing to try and come to a solution that benefits both parties. The climate crisis, for example, they've been so busy arguing that instead of reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and gradually switching to a green fuel source, they just argue about how they're going to do it instead of actually doing it. If they focused on making solar, wind, and hydroelectric just as accessible, we'd be significantly further ahead.
The reason the government is failing is they regulate money all across the U.S. and tax heavily all across the U.S., but can't seem to fund anything correctly and are handsomely paid via our tax dollars. New Mexico's governor's salary, for example, is $110,000 a year, plus living in the governor's mansion cost-free. The governor's state in Washington's base salary is $183,072 a year, and almost all 50 states' governors actually make between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. The Speaker of House's base salary is $223,500 a year. The U.S. spent $47 billion on foreign aid last year, and 37% of it went to just 10 countries, by the way. Why are we investing this money in other nations if we can't even invest it in our own nation as far as homelessness and education and the other issues that we have here?
The fifth reason the government is failing is because they're not allowing a free market on all forms of energy, insurance, and other life necessities, which is not only misappropriating our tax dollars, but it is also infringing on our basic rights of a life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The point we have reached in our society that the things that are basic aren't so basic anymore. Things like a house to live in, a car to get to the places you need, utilities on in the house you live in. Things like that aren't. Everybody doesn't have them anymore. They're not the basic things anymore. And denying people, and the government is denying people the access to these things. And Hold on. Let me try that again. And
Start with people need energy.
people need energy? Okay. Alright. People need energy, insurance, and affordable homes and education, and the government is basically removing access to that instead of allowing more access and allowing other companies to start up and help improve these industries. They're making it harder for them to do that.
The sixth reason the government is failing is they fall into these policy myopias. They have indefinite short-term fixes to problems that require strategy and analysis. An example would be an intervention costing the U.S. more than it would contribute to the welfare of the people, or just generally exceeds the benefits. It's essentially short-term thinking with no consideration or thought to what can happen long-term. In our eyes, essentially refusing to come to a mutually beneficial decision between both parties. So they do a lot of the time.
They could accomplish so much if they worked together instead of just arguing about stupid shit.
It's ridiculous.
Little things that honestly could be compromised on.
Reason number 7 the government is failing is they have made it so that our votes essentially mean nothing. Electoral colleges decide everything. We're under the illusion of democracy. Electors are appointed every election year, and that's equal to the number of each state's congressional delegations. These electors are not required to vote based on how their state would like or how their state votes. They can essentially vote however they want. The voting system we have is pretty fucked up, and it's not politically biased by one or the other. It's just our political system is ineffective. It has been for years. It has nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans. All of them failed.
Reason number 8 the government is failing is because they're worrying about every other country but America. See, the U.S. education ranking has been going down on a global scale, not even just within the U.S. It's on the global scale. It's been going down and has been for about the past 30 years. Yeah. But something you should know is last year the U.S. spent about $5.94 billion in Afghanistan. There was $3.11 billion in Israel, $1.67 billion in Jordan, and $1.23 billion in Egypt. And then there was so much more that the list would go on and on and on and on and on. So we decided not to write all of them. But we are taking care of all of these countries, but yet there are people here who don't go to the hospital because they can't afford it. We have people here who don't have homes. We have people here who are starving. And not only that, people here who are homeless, starving, and can't go to the hospital, and they're the people who served our country. So, shouldn't we have our shit together before we try and help others? I mean, that's something I was told all growing up, make sure you have your stuff together before you try helping somebody else. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to help them very well.
Can't help each other so you can't help yourself.
Exactly.
Reason number 9 the government is failing. The government is failing. They are monopolizing, creating a plethora of capital with a select few businesses when everyone here should have that opportunity. Monopolizing and only allowing certain businesses to thrive should be illegal, and it technically is, but the government won't put an end to it. In fact, they often partake in it. In a free market, competition ensures better service, encourages incentives, and sets a general standard, whereas a government monopoly removes all of these factors, and they have done that to a lot of businesses like mom and pop shops. They make it a lot harder for them to have incentives for their employees and stuff like that, so they do make it harder. Look at Walmart. It's a giant monopoly.
The final reason the government is failing is a flat-out lack of structure. Our government is not structured to complement the freedoms and liberties us Americans were granted. Gun rights should never be questioned by the government. Access to clinical safe abortions shouldn't be questioned by the government. Who marries who? No business of the government. The government doesn't really have boundaries, although the only reason that any of them are in office is to uphold our constitutional rights. The government is trying to structure a place of control rather than a place of freedom, and it's not going to work in America. Not to be blunt about it, but it won't.
No.
It's not how this country was built on. It's not what it's going to stand for. There are several more reasons that the government is failing, but that's all we have time for today. Please like and share our video with your conspiracy theorist friends.
Thank you for staying tuned, and we hope you enjoyed the video.
Stay kind, stay educated, and stay questioning everything.